Dr. Gavin England, would you like to come and join us on the stage, sir? So Gavin is the managing director of a company called Narryer Metals Limited. They listed not that long ago, back in April of 2022. He does, however, have more than 20 years of experience in mineral exploration, project development, and also technical advisory roles across a number of different commodities. Actually, is it true, while I was out there during halftime before we start filming for our ASX bits, did you start your career with our first speaker today?
No.
That's him, that fellow up the back there. That one.
Well, I didn't start my career with him, but I was on the journey with Jackson, yeah.
Has he always been this football mad?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I was just having reminiscences about the Ramsgate Hotel in what year was it, Jackson? Yeah.
Now Jackson's worrying that he shouldn't have actually opened his can of worms that year. What was he like to work with?
Oh, great.
Yeah?
No, it was good.
Okay, so he'll give you a discount next time when you offer. Good.
Well,
all right.
I think he got me into this slot, so I'm quite thankful.
That's okay. All right, there's a great slot. It is a good slot. Right, we'll go back to very technical now, ASX. Here we come. So Gavin is here today to speak of Narryer Metals Dynamic Exploration Program at their key projects, which are in Western Australia and also over in South Australia over the past 5 months, and what we can expect from him and the team at Narryer in the months and years to come. Please make him very welcome.
The important notices and disclaimers, we won't go through that too much, but you can read it later. Why Narryer? So we listed around April this year. And we have strategic holdings predominantly for nickel copper PGE in the Narryer terrain, which is along the Western Gawler, which is what hosts the Julimar deposit, and in the Gawler Craton, which is an underexplored region that I think has got a lot of promise for these styles of deposits. We've got to a point now that we're ready to drill our maiden drill program at our flagship Narryer project, and I'll talk a little bit about that. We've got some fantastic EM anomalies that we'll get into. And the geological gods have fallen on us in a nice way as well, in that funny, where you seem to be looking for magmatic nickel copper PGE deposits, we've also now got rare earths in the play, and we've had some major rare earth discoveries around us, and we'll probably just touch on those. And talking about rare earths, this week we made an announcement on a project originally that I looked at for magmatic nickel copper PGEs, but when I actually started pulling it apart, what I actually found is it's quite an exciting rare earth project, and that the 16 drill anomaly, or 16 drill holes had 15 intersections, probably more than 20 meters in total rare earths above 1,000 ppm. I'll just talk about the board. We've got quite an experienced board. People that know something about nickel. Richard Bevan, he was the founding MD of Cassini, who had the West Musgraves project that was eventually sold to Oz. Phil was also on the board at that time, and he is managing director of Grange Consulting, who looks after our corporate. And myself and Damon basically put these projects together. So Damon is part of the O'Mara family, who are quite well known, particularly in WA. Think about Atlas Iron, think De Grey, think Kalamazoo. They basically came out of this stable. I'm a geologist, as you know, and Jane is basically my sidekick. We'll just quickly talk about Rocky Gully. So that's down in the southern part of Western Australia on the Albany Fraser. It seems to have a carbonic intrusive element to it. And I think this is what's brought in the rare earths. It's over 1.5 Ks in strike, greater than 20 meters thickness. And I'll just, for example, we've had some pretty good intersects, particularly in the magnetic rare earths. They're the ones that you want to look at. And generally, they're above 25% of the total rare earth sweep. So that's quite important. So here we've got 32 meters at 14,1458. with, again, 350 ppm magnetic rare earths, and then another great intersection, 40 metres at 965 ppm and 260. So they're the kind of grades that everybody else are showing, but I think we've got actually a lot thicker sections. What I like the fact is that I can see that there's rare earth enrichment in the regolith, and that's basically sitting in the clays. That's where we wanted to see them. And our plan will be to get a drill program in soon and basically pull it apart and look at the mineralogy and the metallurgy before we start thinking about maybe doing a resource drill. I'll quickly get to Narryer now. This is our flagship project. So 1,800 square k's of ground. We know that we're in the right rocks. It's had minimum exploration. So we're looking for the next Nova Bollinger, or even the next Bushveld, Panton, Sill style reef related PGE type deposit. Once we listed, we wanted to get a good grounding. So we did quite a large magnetic survey and a radiometric survey. And then we also did quite a big EM survey to get us ready, to give us some targets to drill. So we spent probably over $500,000 just in the first month or so in trying to get that done. This is just, so I just say there's Julimar, then we're kind of along strike, kind of up to the northwest edge of this Yilgarn. It's large igneous province, near major province boundaries, deep faults, got the intrusives, probably got the sediments for the sulfur we're on. We're surrounded by Chalice. But also we have some quite good rare earth discoveries, as I said, not far from us, with Desert Metals and Krakatoa. So just going a bit further in, and this is the main area that we're looking at the moment, Mount Narn. So we flew the mag survey over a 20 kilometre of ultramafic mafics. No previous drilling for nickel, but what we do see is cumulates, which are an important factor or important rock type that tells you you're in the right place. So we had 7 really sexy EM anomalies late time. I was out last week doing the heritage surveys for those. That's all good. We'll be out drilling, you know, in the next few weeks. We've also got rare earth targets there, which I'll touch on a little bit. And we'll also have a PGE play, which is a bit of a sleeper. It's my sleeper project at the Takaba Well. As you can see, you can just kind of notice that it's just off center from where we did our EM surveys. So just to touch on Takaba Well, large mafic, ultramafic intrusive, never been identified before. Had a little bit drilled, little tip of it drilled, looking for chrome just off the road. Found some chrome, didn't do PGEs. Now, often when you find chromite bands and like the big deposit, Bushveld, always has chromite bands associated and with PGEs associated. So we're going in to re-drill those. But I've got a geologist out there at the moment doing some more mapping, and he's finding some really great rocks that I think is showing that this project might actually have some legs. Just talking about the rare earths, as I said, we have similar geology to Desert Metals and Krakatoa's Indoendi and Mount Clair discoveries, and there was a talk on Mount Clair yesterday by Krakatoa, was quite good. So we've got the thorium anomalies and the same lucicratic granites, gneisses as those guys. We seem to be able to, we've started a stream SED program to kind of delineate where to go. So once upon a time when you did a mag survey, you'd throw the thorium radiometrics out because you didn't know what to do with it. Now, I think this is pretty much the key to trying to, particularly in the Narryer terrain, to find the right places to be for rare earths. Back to South Australia, where I live. And again, the right place to find a big monster and a big nickel copper PGE deposit. Western areas, which is now IGO, also think that. So we've got ground quite close to those guys. There's previous drilling there showing, quite elevated PGEs in holes that didn't really test some of the targets. We've got, and what again, as I said, the geology gods have again provided us with rare earths. So our projects around the Sturt is not far from the Comet discovery of petrotherm, and we've also got, and also the Lady Leviathan discovery by Indiana. Getting to Sajuna. So we're a junior company, so therefore I'd like to try and keep everything run a tight ship. And one way of doing that is to use the available information that's around. And what I've done here is actually go back to the South Australian Core Library, which stores government-funded drilling, and have a look at these holes over 3,200 square Ks for rare earths. So this has never been assayed for rare earths. This would have cost me probably $1 million to drill and get done. And so now I've got someone in a lab in Adelaide going through doing handheld XRF, looking for rare earths. And then if we, as a first pass, and then we'll send to the labs for assays. This is exciting, and we'll have some results on this in the next month or so. We've got, but getting back to why we're here, we picked out some really key nickel copper PGE targets. Cooper Hill is our priority one. I'd like to do some EM in the next 6 months over some of these key targets, and this is rolling along quite nicely for probably an initial RAB program in the next 3 to 6 months. Just touch on Sturt. Sturt is quite 30 Ks from the Comet petrotherm rare earth discovery. We have very similar intrusive ring-like structures as the Comet discovery. My main target here is the Claypan prospect. This has never been drilled. But again, the reason why we're here is because I identified an orthositic complex with potential of feeder zone coming off the edge, who someone else identified, did some EM, but didn't finish up the EM by doing more EM to try to identify the target. So this is our nickel play here. We'll go in and do some EM on our Sturt nickel, and then come back later and do test with RC on some of these targets. So the next 6 months ahead is going to be busy for me. We did the EM in the mag, great. We got some great targets. I've started doing some baseline work with stream seds, looking for PGEs and rare earths at Narryer. That's on the way. But the real test now comes in a few weeks when we drill our EM targets, and this is pretty exciting. And we'll also be drilling our PGE target at Tackable Well. We'll continue on doing the grassroots type geo, boots on ground type thing that I feel very strongly for. And we've got a geological team with an average age of 50, so I'm not ageist at all. We've got some great guys doing some work at the moment for us. We're on track to get our first lot of data back from at the labs for the Sajuna and Sturt for our rare earth projects. And then once we've got that, we'll get a RAB program going this year or beginning of January. Sturt, we're dealing with some native title, but we'll get into that in the first quarter next year. And Rocky Gully, like, it's just amazing that you can find something if you just go through the data a little bit. And I think this rare earth, this could be quite a significant rare earth discovery if we start, really getting into it. It looks from the geophysics that it's a lot bigger than the existing historic 15 drill holes that have been put in it. All right, I'd like to thank everyone here, and if you've got any questions, come and see me at the booth.
Thank you very much, Mr. England, and it's good that you're Dr. England, I should say, correct, and good that you're not ageist.
I only use it to one day get an upgrade on the plane. It's never happened. The only time it's actually happened is I've been on a long haul and someone's dragged me to, or someone's having a heart attack, and I had to say, no, I really only know about rocks.
And they're already sort of catatonic. That's not great. That would be quite funny. David Crook, can you come and join us, please, sir? David is also an experienced human in this field of endeavour. He's a geologist with more than 40 years of experience, and over in WA, we kind of see him as one of the fathers of lithium exploration over there. He was one of the first people to identify that lithium was going to be a big thing over in Western Australia. Right, so we're going to talk about Charger Metals right now. Since listing over 12 months ago, Charger's geoscientists have generated some quality new drill-ready targets on each of their 3 company projects that they have. It's a really exciting time for the company, and they're eagerly waiting. When you see it, B-Y-O-N-E, I always say by one, by own. Don't be rude to me. B-Y-O. Would you please welcome?
After doing this for what? How many?
I know. Sorry. Eventually I'll get it right. David Crook, the man who always gets it right. Please make him welcome, everyone.
Thank you very much. And we really enjoy coming to the vertical events and RIU conferences. So Stu and everybody, and including Kristen, do a very good job usually. So Charger has been around just over 12 months, but the lithium story goes back quite a long way. Lithium Australia was one of the first movers in the lithium space. You might have guessed that by the name, but they were starting to morph into a technology company that is recycling products, is making cathode materials and whatnot. And so a group of us that were working around the edges of Lithium Australia thought, well, we're explorationists, let's do it. So Charger was the fruits of that. We actually had the brainwave, if it's such a thing, on the way. We were driving between Diggers and Dealers in Kalgoorlie and Perth when we had the brainwave. So it was seeded then. Really? So Bino is up in the Northern Territory near Darwin, and we'll talk about that. Well, we'll talk about all of them. I suppose the first thing is we're well funded. We were lucky enough to raise, well, lucky enough, we were able to attract another $5.5 million of funding earlier this week. So the company is well funded. We've got over $8 million in the bank, and the message is we are only restricted by government processes to be drilling on two of our lithium projects. So that's the Bino and the Lake Johnson projects. We have quite a, well, I believe, a very decent board. As Chrissy kindly pointed out, I've been a geologist for over 40 years now, predominantly in Western Australia, but the last 10 years focused on LCT pegmatites. Terry Gardner's in the room. He's a very accomplished stockbroker, corporate kind of fellow. Adrian Griffin was the founding managing director of Lithium Australia. Jonathan Smalley is a good goldfield geologist. Brian Dixon has a great depth of knowledge on the corporate basis as well. Unusually for a company of our size and our age, we've got a very strong institutional register. So when you look at a stock and you look at its liquidity and you look at events that's going to move things, when you consider Lithium Australia has nearly 20%, Adrian Griffin personally has 5%. Then we've got funds like Ausbil, Gunson, Lind, and there are several others that all sit at about 5%. Probably 60% of our stock is either escrowed or held in hands of parties that aren't going to shift it. And interestingly, we've got 382 shareholders in Melbourne. So onto the story. We have quite a strategically placed tenement in amongst Core Lithium's ground where they're developing their Finniss spodumene project. So the clear area is ours. The grey area that you can see is Core Lithium, and the yellow area is where they're particularly focused. Now, we were reflecting the other day on that car trip back from Diggers and Dealers, and at that stage, we think Core Lithium's share price, well, market capitalisation was $30 million or $39 million. It's now $1.5 billion. So if you want to see things move, we should have been buying Core all day long on the way home from Diggers and Dealers. So also of interest, these two tenements here and another one over here, they paid $10 million for they've drilled some spodumene in there, but in particular, from our point of view, they've been drilling spodumene here and down here. This whole area is full of LCT, lithium, cesium, tantalum pegmatites, some of which will be spodumene pegmatites, which is what we want, but we're in a very good address. So using, I suppose, the benefit of several years of looking for spodumene and successfully looking for spodumene, I should add too, we've gone out, we have a world-class geochemist that helps us. These things are always teams of people and we've tried to get the very best. And so this is brand new geochemistry that we generated, very nice signatures in these areas here. And these trends continue right through to where we know there's spodumene here and down here. And to show that a little bit better, we did fly aeromagnetics and we've had this specifically processed for pegmatites. The white lines are actually geochemical anomalies, but they line up very, very well indeed with the overall fabric of the countryside, which is determined by the aeromagnetic survey. This is one of the pegmatites and one of our geologists. He and I have worked together for about 8 years now. These are some of the intersections that core lithium achieved at Ahoy up here and Bilitis down here. Now these are as good as anywhere else. So a great area, and the way I see this is it's a tremendous leverage play for those that like Charger. At the moment, our market cap is about what, $36 million, and our surrounding people are all $1 billion companies. Moving on to our second spodumene project, and this one here I think is a much lower risk one. It's about halfway between Perth and Kalgoorlie. We call it Metcalfe, and it's at Lake Johnson. There's a nickel mine here. There are pegmatites that have been known forever up here, but one of the Lithium Australia geologists discovered spodumene down here. We should add that Covalent's a huge yield grey deposit, it's about 70 k's over that way there, so there are big lithium systems in this area. We did a lot of soil geochemistry, the grey areas, but we kept on coming back to this area here, and these are outcropping pegmatites. The white grains that you can see in there, they're spodumene crystals. This rock is predominantly spodumene, so that's from down here. When we look at that, the way that it was presented to us by our field geologists, the red ribbons through there are dikes of pegmatite, and they've started with spodumene crystals. So when I say this is a very low risk drill target, it's because it's sticking out of the ground. You know, you'd be pretty hard to miss it. And the grades are all pretty good. You know, all of those are above 1%. There's 7% tucked in there. I think the geologist must have very carefully just chipped out a spodumene crystal and put it into assay, because it's about as good as you can get. The geochemistry howls in that area, but it does tail out. So that black box is the same black box as that one there. So you can see as we head up here, there's still more targets. There are matte pegmatites out here. And our plan is to come in and drill 3 lines through the middle, 80 metres apart, step out 160, step out 160 and do some long traverses. Not rocket science. Where we are with this, we had to get a spring survey done for it was a flora survey. It's now spring, that survey is being done as we speak. That then starts the clock ticking towards our drilling, so that's the time determining step. Concurrently with that, we are going to do our Aboriginal Heritage Survey that's booked for next month. And with those 2 things completed, the Mines Department approval should flow and we'll be drilling as soon as we possibly can. So our aspiration, and it's only constrained by our bureaucrats, is to be drilling both these projects before the end of the year. The big pegmatite field that I said was a little further north is this one here. Soil geochemistry shows that this area howls with lithium in soils. Geology is a lot more complicated. These are big flat sheets of pegmatite. These ones here in particular are full of tantalite, so we know they are LCT, we know they are fertile. There are bits and pieces of lithium around, but what we really want to do is discover the feeder zone for these. These things don't just get parachuted in. They've got to be fed from something, and that's most likely where the spodumene is going to be. So that's a work in progress. Our third project is one that a number of people have spoken about. These are the Western Yilgarn ultramafic ones. We won't dwell a lot on this. This is a summary then, let's skip to that. mafic intrusion, the way Greg and Dr. English spoke about. We have geochemistry there. That was the courtesy of some aluminium explorers. We were able to get the bottom of hole samples, run them for gold and platinum and palladium, got all of that. Flew helicopter, got our EM targets, did some ground EM, and we've completed 4 drill holes. It's our diamond rig out there a couple of weeks ago. So the core is prepared, is cut in the lab, just waiting for results. And that's all I'll say about that. Oh, that's what a VTM, a helicopter-borne EM survey looks like. So wrapping up, fire. Thank you. She forgot to warn me yesterday, but there's no fear of me running over. We see ourselves well positioned with high leverage projects and spodumene, that are the preferred lithium mineral. And so we are lining up to drill the Darwin project, the Bino project, which is entirely surrounded by core, and they're a $1.5 billion company. We are lining up to drill at Lake Johnson at Metcalfe. There we've got spodumene pegmatite sticking out of the ground. As soon as we get our approvals, we'll be drilling there. And I think that that's a very low risk project, but again, a fair amount of leverage associated with that when you look at companies that have got 10 to 20 million tonnes of spodumene even. And the Coates one, it's a mafic intrusion hosted base metal project, platinum group element project. We've drilled that, we're waiting on assays, and we'll see what happens. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. I have to apologise too, because sometimes when our presenters speak to me, the way that the sound bounces off the back wall means that I can't really quite hear what you're saying, which you all get the joke and I can't because I'm on the side. So my apologies, David. There we go. Yes, but I'll definitely remember now how to spell B-Y-N-O-E. Bino. I will never ever forget that one again. Right, we are going to the Pilbara in Western Australia, to a very mineral rich area of WA, and I'd like you to welcome please Black Canyon up to join us on the stage. They're a manganese explorer. They listed back in 2021. They have an absolute swathe. I've defined a swathe of mineral resources. They've released a positive scoping study for its flagship Flanagan Bore project, and this is the executive director, Brendan Cummins, correct?
Correct.
Right, yeah. He's here to provide the details of the company's plans to become Australia's next manganese producer, with an eye to downstream production of manganese sulfate, which of course, as we all know, by now is used in the EV batteries. Would you please make him welcome?
Thank you very much, Christina. Really good to be presenting here today at the CRU Investment Series. So I appreciate your time and thanks for coming along. Usual disclaimer, forward statements. I will talk about the scoping study information that I'll be talking about presenting during the course of this presentation. We did a scoping study, so that's plus or minus 35% in terms of accuracy, but the scoping study is based on indicated resources, not on inferred resources. So Black Canyon, yeah, we listed in May last year, 2021. And it's been a very full 15, 16 months since listing. We have not really rested around. We've sort of been out there. We've done a couple of drill programs, discovered a very large resource, scoped that through the scoping study, and have a pretty good idea on the valuation of that project now. Black Canyon itself, very tight capital structure, enterprise value of about $8.6 million, so 50 million shares on issue. And you can sort of see how the share price has traded since listing. We've held our head above water in that 20 to 30 cent range. Had a very attractive spike there with the release of a mineral resource earlier this year. But since then, I guess the market has changed somewhat. But we're still just ploughing along with the programs that we've got ahead of us. So in terms of shareholders, 12% owned by board and management, which is very important. We've all got skin in the game, and the top 20 shareholders hold about 40% of those shares. When we listed, we raised $5 million on the IPO, and recently in April, we raised another $3.2 million at 33 cents. And our stockbroker for that was Taylor Colson's out of Adelaide, Sydney, and also Argonaut based out of Perth. And during that raise, we actually added a couple of junior instos to the register as well, which is very supportive of the stock at this early stage. A little bit about the board. Graham Asco, very well known identity in mining and exploration circles, based out of Adelaide. He's a geophysicist, a lot of experience in exploring for minerals all over the globe. Myself, I'm a geologist, been kicking rocks around Australia and internationally for the past 25 years. So definitely had a lot of learnings in that time. And the last program I was on was with a company called Strandline Resources, which was just recently funded for construction and is going into production basically as we speak. So that was 8 years with Strandline. So that really set me up and gave me a lot of good experience in understanding how projects need to be developed, particularly around environmental approvals and regulatory authorities as well. Geologist Simon Taylor, also on the board. So you can see we've got a very strong technical team at board level at the moment. Obviously, over time, this will probably evolve as we progress down the development phase of the company. Adrian Hill is here as well today, Melbourne-based, finance and corporate, so backed up with a bit more experience on that side as well. So Black Canyon, what are we about? You know, we're manganese focused. We're not really looking for any other commodity. It's all about manganese. And the dominant use of manganese in the steel industry. It's essential to steel, but it's also a large growing proportion of the battery as well. So in electric vehicles, we're located in the premier mining district of Western Australia, up in the Pilbara, the Eastern Pilbara. And our neighbours are Woody, which is a manganese mine, been going for 60 years, and also Butcher Dirt as well, which is a more recent mine that developed last year. Mineral resources, we've defined 104 million tonnes at 10.5% manganese. So we've really, like as a geologist, getting that resource base is so important. It all comes from resource. You've got to make sure your resource is of the right scale and quality to support a mine study and feasibility. But we also have 2,500 square kilometres of tenements up in that Eastern Pilbara region as well, all looking for manganese. So a lot of other targets and a lot of work to be done on those. The strategy is quite clear. It's a proven pathway to discover and develop projects. And we recently finished the Flanagan Bore scoping study. But longer term, we're looking at running in parallel a downstream process of producing manganese sulfate, which is used directly in batteries. So experience counts with all this, and I sort of alluded to the management team, but we are also building an execution team as the company progresses through to more detailed feasibility. I've got two slides on sort of manganese. I guess everyone's learned all about lithium that's required in these electric vehicles, nickel and cobalt as well, but manganese does tend to be forgotten. So just to refresh people's minds about manganese, it's dominantly used in the steel industry. So the global steel market's about 2 billion tonnes being manufactured annually around the globe, of which 20 million tonnes of manganese is required to go into the steel industry. So putting it in a perspective, whenever a building gets constructed, they use rebar. Every tonne of rebar has about 15 kilos of manganese in it. So that's where most of it's used. But what is really changing, the supply demand side and the growth potential for manganese is its utilisation in electric vehicles and in batteries and in nickel, manganese, cobalt batteries. So I've just highlighted the M in the NMC batteries there, so people are aware that it is in batteries. So in each battery, that they might have 10 to 30% manganese in the battery pack, which is 10 to 30, 40 kilos, sometimes 90 kilos, depending on the battery chemistry and the size. But what's driving the utilisation of manganese in batteries is really governments looking at reducing the utilisation of conventional combustion engines. And they're also providing very healthy subsidies to make sure that happens. And if you look at the way the car manufacturers that are all progressing, they've all got to have an electric vehicle lineup now. And that's just, the growth in that area is exponential as time goes on. But what really needs to happen is that these batteries need to come down in price to make them cost competitive to conventional combustion engines. And if you look at the graph just down through there, you can see manganese utilisation looking at increasing 9 times. And that's because the companies who are putting the statistics together realise that over time, Cobalt will probably be removed from these batteries, but also manganese will replace it. A little bit more about where manganese is used. So on the left-hand side, you can sort of see the makeup of your typical batteries and your NMC batteries, your triple ones, your 532s and your 811s. And you can see how much manganese is in those, up to 30% in the triple one and down to about 10% in the 811. Those chemistries are pretty widely used in the electric vehicle manufacturing process. What's happening is with manganese in the lithium iron phosphate batteries, which is a bit more of a change in the utilisation of manganese. So recently CATL, this is only in July of this year, have come up with a new battery, which is called the N3P battery. And that is essentially a lithium iron phosphate battery. That's actually included, that has manganese now included in that cathode. So for that, what they're able to do is actually increase the energy density of that N3P battery, and it's getting closer to the NMC battery, but at a cost price that is significantly less. So I think we'll see a lot of other battery manufacturers start including manganese in the lithium iron phosphate chemistries. I mean, ultimately, they really want to remove cobalt. But one thing that is also really quite apparent is that where are the batteries made? Where are the cathodes made? And if you look at the graphs down below, you can see that, you know, it's obviously mined all over the globe. South Africa, Australia are big producers of manganese. But where it's processed is dominantly China. Where the cathodes are made is dominantly China. And also where the cells are manufactured is obviously China as well. So, which makes perfect sense because that's where the vehicles are also made. So that's China's the dominant producer in construction of batteries in those vehicles. But I can really see in the future that you know, the US and European markets are going to want to catch up. So there is going to be a need for diversification of supply, and that's where I think a company like Black Canyon can sort of help to fill that role going forward. This is not going to happen next year. It will take, you know, probably 5 to 10 years before that happens. But in terms of timing, that actually suits our projects very well also. Now, a bit more about the projects. We've got a joint venture with a company called Caravan Resources. We're earning to 75% on those projects. So about 2,500 square kilometres up there in the Pilbara. What we're looking for is hydrothermal manganese, which is high grade, small tonnage deposits. So we're talking 2 to 5 million tonne style deposits at about 35 to 40% manganese, but also the supergene style of mineralisation. And we've come onto one of those at Flanagan Bourse. We've been quite lucky. They are 50 million to 200 million tonnes at around 10% manganese as well. So with Black Canyon 100% tenements, we have about 1,500 square k's under our own tenement area. So a lot, oops, sorry, go backwards. Yeah, so a lot of tenements up there. There's Woody up there, which has been a mine operating for about 60 years. And Element 25 has been going now for about 18 months. So both ends of the spectrum here, we've got Woody, which is that hydrothermal style, and Butcherbird, which is this manganese shale supergene enrichment style. Across our tenement package, we've probably got the potential to find more manganese enriched shales, but also to look for the hydrothermal styles as well. So a really complementary set of projects in the region. Yeah, so since listing, Flanagan Bourse really emerged as our flagship project. This tenement here only had 12 holes drilled into it previously. We listed in May last year, so I was up on the ground pretty much 2 weeks later after listing, and I really wanted to see on ground the potential of this fold nose through here. So, and I got really excited when I went there as a geo. You can just see the geology performing in the right way, and so there was no drill holes into that target. So we got straight into that in December and drilled a few thousand metres, and we've come up with a resource. And recently in May and June of this year, we've just done some infill drilling, which will upgrade that resource to measured categories. So 104 million tonnes at 10.5 with some very high grades in there as well. This is what the deposit looks like. This is a fantastic ore body. Look at the thicknesses through there, 30, 40 metres at plus 10 to 20% manganese with high grade zones in there as well. It's got scale. We're talking a kilometre, by a kilometre here as well. So a fair few footy ovals can be squeezed in there. And LR1, just looking on the ground, you can just see there's 800 metres across through there as well. So again, very thick intervals, all from surface. That's really important with manganese deposits. You want to have it at surface. This is what the core looks like, and we've done preliminary metallurgical studies as well, and we've been able to achieve up to 30% manganese in our concentrate grade, which is a great start. We've actually just delivered 1.5 tonnes of more core to the labs to commence our more detailed feasibility work on that. In parallel, we're running battery precursor studies. So we're looking at the dissolution of manganese in leaching, and then also ultimately to be able to produce a high purity manganese sulfate. That's a precursor material into the batteries. We'd recently completed a scoping study in August, and I guess the key points to take away from this is the 134 million NPV and IRR of 67%, which is pretty robust. It's not a large project. The capex required for this is about $44 million, so definitely achievable for a junior company of our current status. But it can make some really good money certainly in the first 4 years. You're generating some good cash flows out of that. What we're doing at the moment is commencing environmental studies as well, but also we plan to commence drilling on this water bore field as well, just to make sure we've got processed water. So this is what we've been doing in the last 12 months since listing. Does that mean 1 minute or does that mean finish? 2 minutes, okay. Plenty of time, I can slow down. Look, it has been a very busy 15 months since listing. If you look at the progress we've made over the projects up until now and compare it to the share price, obviously a lot of interest at that time at the resource. As the maiden resource, 104 million tonnes was definitely a great start. But I can see over time we can grow those resources and ultimately discover higher grade, smaller deposits as well. So we've got a mineral resource coming up that should be happening in October. That's based on the drilling that we completed in May and June. So that'll upgrade the resource from indicated to measured. And we're really getting stuck into feasibility studies, which is involving more detailed metallurgical test work, environmental studies, starting to look at the approval process that's required to get this project up and running. And running in parallel is the battery precursor studies. Some of the other projects, which I probably don't have time to go on, but if you feel free to come and see me at the booth if you want to get some more information on our other projects. So the questions at the end are, why invest in Black Canyon? Well, I think we've shown that we are manganese focused. You can see where the manganese is used in the steel sector, but also very critical in batteries going forward. If you're looking at balancing your portfolio, you've got to have your lithium, you've got to have your nickel and your cobalt, but also don't forget about manganese. It's also really important. We're a well-funded group. We had 4.75 million in the bank at the end of June and a very tight capital structure as well, which is highly leveraged for growth. We'll continue our exploration projects going forward over the next 12 to 18 months. And we're really quite fortunate that Flanagan Ball has been able to deliver rapid delineation of resources, feasibility studies, just looking at de-risking the project really from now on. And running in parallel over the next 18 months will be our downstream processing and high purity manganese sulfate studies that will kick off. So, yep, thanks for listening, and more than welcome to come by the booth this afternoon and have a chat and learn some more. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Brendan. You know, one thing that's been a bit remiss on my part is that we're here in the lead up to the grand final. I've been hearing a lot of AFL chat out there. There was no chat about the AFL really in Sydney yesterday. I asked everyone to put their hands up who was following the AFL, and I had one little table of people over here, so we got rid of any chat about AFL. But here, who doesn't follow the AFL? That's probably the easy way going. Stay here, Brendan. One, fabulous. Okay. And what's your name?
Shay.
Where do you come from, Shay?
I'm from Melbourne.
Gee whiz. You must be a real excitement to your parents, is that?
I'm an utter disappointment because they're Collingwood supporters.
Bless you, I can understand why you changed. I once went to the Hill and watched Collingwood from the Hill. That was the most exciting game I'd ever gone to as a West Australian. I reckon I was about 21. I was working with Getaway at the time, and there literally were some blokes there. I'd heard about them with no teeth, and there were some of them there. So I apologise to any Collingwood supporters because I know you've lifted your game in the years. Brendan, who are you going for on the weekend? Wow. That's all right. Good. Okay, we've got that one. So we've got one for the Swannies. Right. We are going to use the marvels of modern technology that we all learnt about during the pandemic, and we're going to link up with our next presenter. I'm just looking out the back to Shani, my tech guru. All good, sir? All right. So the happiest Chilean in the world is about to join us from Argentina. JP, he is an amazing human being. He's very passionate about the next project. So to tell us all about Galan Lithium, will you please make him very welcome?
Hi there. Welcome to New Worlds Metals. My name is JP Vargas de la Vega. I'm the Managing Director of Galan Lithium Limited. I'm here to unfortunately present not in person presentation about who we are and what we're doing, but importantly, it's good news. I'm staying in South America just to get things over the line, and with that, I've got a presentation for you to tell the audience our advances, our progress, our future plans, and where we're at. So without further ado, I go into the presentation. So it's what you see in this picture. It's a snapshot of our evaporation pond for our pilot plant, and we also have our camp in the background, exploration camp at Hombre Muerto West, that is west of the Livent Corporation. We have a project that is yielding fantastic results, high-grade low impurities, and we have something that we want to be taken into development as soon as we can. So we're fast-tracking evaporation. We gain results. Evaporation is working, and we expect to have results by the time we come out with our DFS late this year or early Q1 next year. Snapshot about the company. The company is well positioned cash-wise to deliver on what we said we'll do, meaning that we're doing a definitive feasibility study at Hombre Muerto West. We're doing that with Hatch. We're trying to get the best-in-class engineering to get the study done. We have also 17% of the company is owned by directors and management. Top 20 is around 54%, top 50 is around 65%. So we tightly held, and this can result in a good upside. We have a lot of significant news to tell the market, which I'll point out in a minute. But our past track is showing that we can do things, that we're doing things in the right way. We have 2 projects with 2 maiden resources, and we're taking the biggest one, Hombre Muerto West, into DFS with a view that we can become a producer in 2025. So, and what have we done this week? We mentioned that we have put our permitting for a 200-man that is going to be fully operational sometime next year. And this is with the view that we need to execute Hombre Muerto West into production to become a producer in 2025. This camp is going to answer 2 things. It's going to answer the manning power that we need to construct the ponds going forward, and also it's going to be used as a permanent camp for the production crew. So in one way, we can resolve 2 problems at once. And why Galan? We have very strong reasons as why, and we, as mentioned here, we are in a world-class location. We are next door to the Livent Corporation that's been producing lithium carbonate for 25 plus years. The lithium revolution started at Hombre Muerto with Livent for this first Sony Handicap, so this is no coincidence now going forward. We have POSCO, which is an industrial company fully integrated into become a miner. We have Allchem at Sal de Vida, looking to become the next producer in the area. The strong, compelling economics is number 2, and as such, it's not brainer to see with the high lithium prices, we'll be printing money. Importantly, when things go wrong in terms of the market, if they can, and it would at some time, we'll be ready for it, because we are going to be a low-costing solution for the lithium market going forward. I don't advise this is going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years, but what we want to do is trying to take advantage of the high lithium prices that we're seeing today. We would like to become the next lithium producer, and this is where all our efforts are put. We're trying to use a simple technology, simple process, which is the evaporation process for concentration, and our target is trying to produce lithium chloride concentrate or technical concentrate, which is the feed for lithium carbonate in the downstream process. We are choosing this way because we are in the middle of nowhere, no power, no water, and we've seen other options. DLE is a solution. We don't want to be the first, second, or third. We want them to try. Commercially, there's no one in full operations that is full DLE. We're happy to see how everyone else operate. We, as we don't have power available or water, fresh water available, which is important, we're just trying to stick to what works. And the conventional process is what will take us there to a quick cash flow. We can retrofit things down the track, but we don't want to expose our shareholders into a high-risk solution that is not fully proven yet. Therefore, we're moving forward the best and quickest way possible to development with the team that we have. We have a very strong team, and I tease around that this is the XQM team because there's so many people from SQM, which is the largest lithium producer in the world, that these guys have blood, sweat, and tears in the last few decades working with lithium brines, and these guys know what they're doing. We are trying to get to market as soon as we can, as mentioned earlier on, and this is important. We have people to execute with the knowledge and experience to do so. And also on the other side of Umbra Murta West, we have Candelas that will take into a DFS as soon as we finish with Umbra Murta West. And further down the track, we have the Greenbushes South JV with Lithium Australia, 80-20% for Galan. And we believe that there is a chance there. Keep an eye on this, on the further development, that we can get the significant sniff in the ground, but nothing will be proven until we drill it. Anyway, I'm back to Argentina. We are in the Lithium Triangle. We are neighboring Galaxy, Allkem, Posco, and Livent, and we are in a very hot area of the salt flats in Argentina. A satellite picture will show you where we are in the west in light blue. Next to that is Livent in red. To the north, Posco. To the south, Allkem, and to the south of Allkem, we have Candelas. We are in a very well-positioned place. A lot of infrastructure. We're not reinventing the wheel. This is a simple process, and we are lower risk profile. I'm not saying there's no risk, but we have far lower risk than the rest. Why? One of the things, a gift from nature, we have high grade. If you see this chart, to the right, we have Umbra Murta in the Umbra Murta West in the far right, escaping the rest, gift from nature, but we also have low level of impurities. And this gives us a flexibility to work with high grade. We're not dependent on technology to get this work. We don't need a plan B for this. We know that plan A is quite strong. So in the compelling economics of what we have is with our lithium price profile of $18,500 a ton approximately, we have a $2.2 billion NPV. And if you think about the current price around $70,000 plus a ton of our lithium carbonate equivalent, the math are very compelling. And this is all our efforts trying to get to market as soon as we can. The payback is significantly. We can get a payback in a year if we're using spot prices, or maybe months. So let's get this done. Let's get to production, and we are lining up people, experience, and a simple solution. So as a result, you see our piloting plant. Our piloting plant is going to be added, our liming plant. And all what we're doing is liming our concentrate once it reaches a certain level of concentration to get to the high level of concentrate that we're looking to achieve. And this is a very simple solution compared to the rest of the solution. I'm not saying it's a walk in the park, but we have the people to back it up. Candela is a similar story, $1 billion plus with $18,500 a ton. And importantly, if you add the two companies together, the two projects together, the salt flat of Umbra Murta, we have a lithium profile production of 34,000 tons of lithium carbonate equivalent that potentially could get to 40,000 tons if the current campaign keeps on yielding the numbers that we believe that we can support for production down the track. We're drilling to come out with a resource update coming up, and this resource update, it should give the base from taken from indicated to measured. A measured is the base that is going to go into the definitive feasibility study to yield our maiden reserve statement. So importantly to all of this is our solution. It has a low carbon footprint, a proven way of going forward, plenty of sun, plenty of wind, the evaporation works, and we don't have to use any more energy than the one that's provided naturally in the area. Carbon footprint's low, and the also our energy consumption is low. So as I mentioned, resource update coming up, base for the DFS study. Once we come out with the DFS study that we believe it will be somewhere late this year or early next one, given a take on targeting things that we're doing, with a study trying to optimize things. We also going to come out with a second resource update next year. So we're not stopping drilling. There's more to add. We have more areas we have not drilled, and the resource, therefore, we expect is going to keep on growing and continuing. So we are gearing up to start the permits for as soon as possible. Next year for us is important. We want to get a study done. We want to execute things, and we want to become a producer in 2025. And hopefully sometime late next year, we start into the construction phase if we keep ticking the boxes that we believe that we are doing to date. So how is all of this done? And this is our board. We have a very strong board in terms of knowledge, experience. Richard is a mining lawyer, worked in Argentina previously. Myself, Daniel, plenty of experience from Chile, 28 years at SQM, 10 years as Senior VP Commercial. He's a very well-known person in the lithium spectrum. Chris is a med by background. Terry is, I'll take my hat with the push that it's doing to get the word across in Australia. If you got any questions, please go and see him. He's attending the booth. And Raymond also is doing his bit to get things over the line. And importantly, what we're doing in Argentina, we got Boris, which is a very strong mine engineer, working in Argentina for Allchem in previously on the expansion for Olaroz. Alvaro has got SQM experience, a strong hydrogeologist, one of the few that you can find around. And I'm very pleased with having him running our exploration and our geology in Chile, in Argentina, and in Australia as well. Francisco and Pablo, company founders, they've been there from day dot. And these guys, I take my hat in terms of the commitment that they have to deliver and being able to be where Galan is today. And these guys help us a lot in terms of getting the community relationships done, helping us as well with the government. And today we have smooth, strong relationships with our community and the government, local government of Catamarca, that's very pro-mining to get to where we are today. So and lastly, we have the Lithium South development, Lithium South project. It's a strong indication of lithium in the ground in terms of sniffs that we've done. Is it economic? We don't know. We need to go and drill it. Time will tell. We're moving as fast as we can with the permits and drill it. And fingers crossed, we can demonstrate that could potentially an extension of this. So watch this space. It's important in Australia what we can deliver as well. And so going back to Argentina, why Galan is because we are in a world-class location, compelling economics I mentioned. The lithium prices go bonkers. We have a simple solution for a small carbon footprint, technology that works. We're not thinking about DLE. We don't want to risk technology that no one is doing 100% DLE today. So we stick to what it works, and we want to get to cash flow. We have a very strong team. We have more to add into our pipeline. Relationships in Argentina are quite good. I've been to site myself. Therefore, I'm not there presenting in person, and I've been spending the last month and a half in ground, in country, and make things done. And I am very excited to keep updating you with news flows for the rest of the year and early next one. So with that said, thank you very much. I enjoy this presentation, and bye for now. And I hope to see you hopefully sometime in the near future. Any questions, please go to our website, go and ask Terry the questions, and we are happy to answer all the questions you have. Thank you.
Good on you, JP. Thank you. He's the happiest Chilean, isn't he? I did try and text him to ask him his AFL tip, but I got nothing back. So maybe Terry, do you know who he'd back? Who would he back, Terry? Who? Okay, nothing, non-disclosure. Great. That's Terry, everyone. That's the man you need to speak to. He's actually more forthcoming with information about Galan, which is great. Tim Mason, can you come and join us, please, sir? We're going to stay overseas. We're going to Arizona now, Tier 1 jurisdiction of Arizona. And Eagle Mountain Mining is on a very exciting journey to become a significant producer of low-emission copper in that jurisdiction. And telling us more, this is Tim Mason. He is the CEO of the company. Please make him welcome, everyone.
No worries. Thanks very much. We've been hearing some great stories about rare earths and lithium and vanadium, but I'm here to tell you about copper. And copper is the metal of electrification. you want to send electrons down a wire, well, that wire is made of copper. And we've got our project in Arizona. It's called the Oracle Ridge Project, which we're working towards a restart. And it's an existing mine, but we're really leveraging off some great discoveries that we've had in the area. And we've got some really exciting expansion potential as well, which I'll go through. Now, before I jump into it, I don't want to hit on the copper market too much, but it's worthy of just pointing out a couple of points. The copper market, well, S&P recently put out a report, which is pretty widely regarded and agreed with, that the copper market is to double by 2035. So that's taking the current market of about 25 million tonnes per year up to about 50 million tonnes. So put that into perspective, Escondida, the world's biggest copper producer, makes around about 1.4 million tonnes of copper per year. So we need multiple Escondidas to come online in order to try and achieve the requirements for decarbonisation and all the targets which have been put out by many of the countries and companies and corporations alike to be able to achieve net zero. It's quite daunting. I think I'm really excited, and I think it's fabulous that we've set those targets to get there. But geez, it's putting a great big challenge for us to be able to produce the metals required to actually be able to produce it. Now, unlike many other commodities, copper doesn't have the substitution which can come into play. So there's a little bit in aluminium, but geez, not to the same extent. So there's global stockpiles, if you do follow it, are really getting quite squeezed at the moment. And I think it's going to be a very exciting space. And I think it's got one way to go. But I'm here to tell you about Oracle Ridge, which is in Arizona. So some important disclosures, please refer to our website for those. So Oracle Ridge, we're in Arizona. It's a tier 1 jurisdiction. Arizona ranked number 2 on the Fraser Institute for Investment Attractiveness. So it is a great place to do business. The local authorities are fabulous in my view, and there's all the mining services that you'd expect. It's got scale potential. In Arizona, we're in the right age rocks. We're surrounded by the majors where you get the very, very large projects. Our project's got a history of production. It was last mined in the mid-90s at a fairly modest rate of around about 200 to 300,000 tonnes per year. We'd be looking to do an order of magnitude greater than that. So it's got that confirmation that it ticks a lot of boxes from everything required to get a mine into production. And someone recently asked me, well, how do you make that investment decision about what you want to get into production? Because we all know that any one of a number of things could stop a mine in its tracks. Geotechnical, metallurgical, permits, community, anything like that could do it. Well, here we've got a project which has already done it. So we know that it has that potential for production. It last shut down when copper was $1 a pound. Today it's $3.50. We've been having some great results, but in particular for us, what we see is our potential for very low emission mining because we can use gravity. Our project's located on the top of a hill. So that means we can now start implementing some of the available technology to be able to really drive down the emissions to be a very, very low emission mine. So not only producing copper, which the world needs for emissions, but also doing it in a low emission mine, in a low emission process. So we're located in Arizona near Tucson. So Tucson's down the bottom here. And then if you stretch down from Mexico all the way up into Nevada, there's the Laramide Arc. We're located in that area where you get the major projects. And as you know, we're surrounded by the majors, BHP, Rio Tinto, Freeport, Hudbay, South 32. It's the right real estate for getting large scale projects. We have so many similarities of the same formations, the same intrusions to a lot of these other projects around us. So we've got that scale potential. We're currently been recommissioning the existing underground mine. We've got 18 kilometres of existing development, which you can already go through, and we're taking that to giving the electrical equipment a birthday, really to be able to get an underground drill rig to get underground and start drilling from underground. So far, our drilling's all been from surface, and it's been quite a sizable surface program at that. Last quarter, to put in perspective, we drilled 15 kilometres of surface diamond drilling obviously from surface. But drilling from underground is an absolute game changer for getting more of our resource into the higher confidence categories, indicated and measured, because that's what you need to be able to get into a feasibility study. So that's what we're focusing on. The drill lengths are about half as long from underground compared to surface. So cost and efficiency is really, really good. The mineralization, you can go up to it, is predominantly chalcopyrite. There's a bit of chalcocite, there's a bit of bornite in there. You can see that video of what it looks like. So that, where I'm standing on the left-hand side there, it looks oxidized just on the surface, but you chip into that and it's a sulfide mine. Historically, they produced a bulk copper, silver, gold concentrate on site. The mill's gone, so we will need to re-put in a new mill, but it was a very simple circuit. There wasn't doing regrinds. It wasn't having to do split concentrates or anything fancy like that. It was just a nice bulk concentrate. We're currently talking to the off-takers, Transmin and Trafigura and the like. They're all very, very keen on securing the product of the project. There's you can actually go up to some of the old stopes there. They've still got the rings there, which they never quite fired when they were last in production. So you can see the conditions are great. This photo was taken about a year ago, but we're into it as we speak. We've got an underground contractor's been refurbishing the mine. And this is, if you drive through it, for a mine that stood there for the last 25 years, that's fabulous ground conditions. I'm a geotech, my background. And the reason it's so good is that it's limestone. Limestone is acid neutralizing, so things like bolts don't rust. So you can see there's a lot of the services there, which we're getting back up to speed with the pumps and electrical equipment. We're just putting some new bearings in the primary fan as we speak. So it's got a JORC resource, which we're really focusing to build the measured indicated. It's 17 million tonnes at a 1% copper cutoff, not a copper equivalent, at a copper cutoff, 1.5% copper. It goes about ½ ounce silver and 0.2 gram per tonne gold in there as well. But what's really interesting about our resource is that if you change that cutoff grade, there's about 30% more copper, so contained metal at a 0.8% copper cutoff. So as the copper prices will rise, when they rise, you would intuitively change your cutoff grade. So we have a lot more resource, there's a lot more metal at the lower cutoffs as the copper prices change. So the drilling, we're still continuing to drill from surface. We've been having some really great results on that front. The terrain has been a little bit steep. So this is why it's been probably pretty challenging. It hasn't been discovered before, but this has been our opportunity. The cost to get into that, that's all been done, that's been sunk. So we've got the road access to expand the resource, and we're now focusing on the underground. But while it's steep, that gives us a great opportunity for low emission mining, and I'll tell you why in a couple of slides' time. So these are some of the results that you can see on the left-hand side. I don't expect you to be able to read those, but give you an example. 70 metres at 1.6% copper, 55 metres at 2.16% copper, 17 gram per tonne silver, ½ gram per tonne gold, so some good byproducts in there. 12 metres at 4% copper, 30 metres at 2.5% copper, 6 metres at 4.2% copper. So some very, very good widths and some really nice grade in there. Now, around Arizona, you also get mineralisation here, and then you get a bit of mineralisation over there as well. So what we're going to go, let's have a bit of a look around. And what we saw is an outcrop of mineralisation, which is this orange line here, of going around about 4 kilometres long with mineralisation about 6 to 10% copper. So we flew the magnetics over there. Our mineralisation is associated with magnetite. So using magnetics is a really good tool for finding more mineralisation. And we've got a 3 kilometre magnetic anomaly dipping back in underneath the hill that hasn't been drilled. So this is a pretty exciting target. We're waiting on a permit to go and drill that. And we think this could be an absolute game changer for us as soon as we can get to do it. So to give you an idea of what that looks like, might be hard to see on the screen, but this is the copper mineralisation. There's a bunch of old adits that got mined back in the 1940s through there too. So it's a pretty exciting target, outcropping mineralisation, high grade, and a big magnetic anomaly dipping back in underneath the hill. And we will look to drill that as soon as we get those permits, which we are very hopeful will not be too far away. This is a cross section through the project. We're focusing on expanding up here at the existing resource, and this is that target I was talking there called Oryx, down a bit lower. There's a view of the mine. There's a tailings dam. It's currently closed. There's road access, and then this is where the two portals sit. And this is where we're getting a lot of the new mineralisation off to the left-hand side there. But we say gravity is our friend because we can use that to really drive down our emissions for future mining. We can start using things like battery and electric equipment, and if they'll be running on the flat or they're running downhill, they're really amenable to our style of mining. That drives down the amount of ventilation you need, that drives down the amount of power you need, that drives down the overall amount of emissions. We're looking at things like pumped hydro systems, conveyor belts running downhill, again, generating power, feed back into the main system. This, whilst not completely unique, this is a great attributes for low emission mining. Corporately, we're still very tightly held, 260 million shares on issue. At the end of last quarter, we had $11 million in cash. Charlie Bass, who founded the company, very well known in the mining industry, has a very, very good track record. He's our managing director. He still owns about 35% of the company and continues to support every raise. So he's a big believer in what we've got here and is certainly continuing to support. Market cap at the moment around about $64 million. And like just about every copper stock, we've been pretty well beaten up. But if you're a believer in copper, now's the time to be buying. So in summary, we're in copper. It's certainly in demand. We've got an existing project which ticks a lot of that boxes for giving confidence for that pathway to production from both metallurgical, geotechnical, mining sense. We're in a tier 1 jurisdiction, so we've got that a level of security, and we're working towards a restart of the project. I've got a little booth out the front there. I'd be delighted to come and talk to anyone who's got some more questions for me. Thanks very much.
Stop there. Oh, actually, come over away from that microphone. Oh, and talk to me on my microphone. So you are tipping?
I'm going for Sydney. I'm a Hawthorn supporter, and I'm still a bit, fond of Buddy,
Okay, all right. So what do you think the chances are? Because it was a thrilling 1 point just takeaway on the weekend. What do you reckon this weekend?
Honestly, I think Geelong's got it. But I'm going for Sydney though, but I think Geelong's got it. I reckon they're going to win.
The underdogs.
I'm going for, yeah, that's right. I'll go for the underdogs.
Okay, good on you. We'll see you outside. Thank you. Would you put your hands together for him again, everyone? I wasn't going to say who I like, but I actually like Sydney. I've liked Sydney for a long time because a very, very basic reason, my deep analysis is that I really like the colour red. So I went for that term a long, long time ago, even though I'm West Australian. So Eagles and the Dockers go second and third to the Swannies. So I'm looking forward to the game on the weekend to see if they come ahead. Right, this fellow here, and he's going to try and see how I am at my tongue twisters. I might have had a few issues with bino, but praseodymium and neodymium. Oh, did I get it?
Yep, you got it right.
I did. I get them right. I was just surprised even myself. Neodymium and praseodymium. And now these are, well, they're metals that will support the global megatrend towards the electrification of society. And this next presenter, RareX, may be able to help not only provide them, but provide us with a little money earner on the side. Let's listen to this presentation with interest. The fellow up the front here is the founder and the MD of RareX. Would you please make him very welcome? They're a Perth-based company as well.
Thanks very much for that introduction, Chrissy, and thanks to Stewie and everyone for attending today and putting this conference on. As was mentioned there, RareX is the company. We're focused on the magnet metals, neodymium, praseodymium, extremely useful stuff for use in high-end magnets in your EVs and wind turbines. And we've got a unique proposition here for you, a carbonatite rare earth project in Western Australia, similar in geology to Linus's Mount Weld, and we're in a process of making it very much larger at the moment, which I'll explain to you as we go through this presentation. Corporately, we're headquartered in Perth, got a modest market cap still of just under $40 million, well funded for what we're trying to do at the moment. We should be funded well into next year. It's worth touching on some of the board members there. John Young is my chairman. He brings a lot of guidance and experience in these EV type commodities, having been a founder of Pilbara Minerals, and can see what we're trying to do at RareX and getting into the early stage of the rare earth cycle, like he did in the early stage of the lithium cycle. Cameron Henry there as well as a founder of Primero Group, which is a processing and engineering firm in Western Australia. So it helps me commercialise this project as we move it forward. So what are we doing here? We are developing Cummins range with its unique properties of neodymium and praseodymium contained within the rare earth metals. They're very useful for the new world economy, as was mentioned in the introduction. EVs, wind turbines, everything like that. It's extremely essential for the new world economy. And what we're doing as well as commercialising this project is growing the size of the resource. The drill bit is spinning as we speak. It's been going since April. It'll go for another month, and we're in the process of expanding our resource greatly, as you'll see with our first drill holes, which we put out yesterday. Where is the project? It's located in the Kimberley region of Western Australia, so just south of Halls Creek. It's a carbonatite project, as I mentioned there. We've got a modest resource at the moment of just under 20 million tonnes at 1.2 TREO, with a high-grade portion contained within that. You'll see in the back half of this presentation, we're in the process of making it orders of magnitude larger than that. We've completed a scoping study in the last couple of weeks, which showing the economics of that modest resource are there for us and to commercialise this project and what we have. But I think we're in the process of making the scale of the project much, much larger. Permitting wise, we're going through all of that at the moment. We've got a mining lease application in. We're moving this thing forward through development as quick as we can. I'll show you our scoping study, the economics of the scoping study in the next few slides, but here you can see how we have broken our project into two parts. But the beneficiation plant at Cummins Range, just south of Halls Creek, where we upgrade the ore as much as we can, and then we take it to Wyndham for further refining, where we can access cheaper and greener power with access to the hydro scheme at Lake Argyle. It gives us a unique proposition to have the world's first hydroelectric powered rare earth refinery. So here's some of the drilling we've been doing. We've been drilling out here on this southern flank, drilling back underneath the resource, with also some RC work out in the other side of the resource. We have put out our drill results. This is an old slide. We put out our drill results yesterday, and we got some really wide intercepts over 300-400 meters at 4% phosphate and 0.4% rare earths. So we're very excited by those results. Also, we've drilled some zones out to the northwest, the northeast. This is phosphate zone out here, and we put out those results yesterday. We're getting 150 meters at sort of 10% phosphate with some high-grade rare earths within that as well, up to 20 meters at 1%. So good widths of phosphate and rare earths as well. So potentially leading to some starter projects for us on the phosphate front. So we put out our first drill results yesterday. We'll have a continual news flow over the next, 3 to 4 months as those assays come through. We've kicked off some metallurgy on those holes as well, so we can deliver that to market very shortly. So here we go. Why are we in this project? NdPr is what we have. We've got a very strong component of NdPr, and NdPr is useful in the magnets, both in EVs and wind turbines. This is a global megatrend that's going on all around the world. You can see a lot of the car makers are investing heavily in rare earths and also in lithium. They're legislating we need to go towards EVs, and this translates greatly into rare earth use. Once again, you're seeing governments around the world putting in legislation to make this happen. So we're very, very positive on the space. What does this mean for rare earths? You're talking about, we know our estimates are that you need something the size of Linus to come on board every 2 years. And I can't see another project the size of Linus coming online within the next 4 to 5 years. So a very important space. We see the prices of NdPr hanging up quite well. They got up to about $170 NdPr per kilo this year. We've done our studies at $110 a kilo, so there's a lot of space in there for us to move into. It's also worth touching on phosphate as a product. Our phosphate price is we've used 200 a tonne. It's very much used in fertiliser. We're very confident of the prices we've used. It's also increasingly used in LFP batteries, lithium phosphate ion batteries. These are going to become the dominant type of battery in the world. In our view, they're much cheaper to produce. They don't have quite the efficiencies of the NMC chemistry, but they're much cheaper and easier to produce, and therefore will take over the lion's share of the battery chemistry in our view. So we've also got the team to deliver here. Apart from myself, we've got a bunch of very good people on board with us. James Durrant, a project manager, Guy Moulang, our head of exploration, who's given us some really good drill results. Gavin Beer is an industry-leading metallurgist. He's the one that's given us confidence that we can produce the rare earth products we say we can. Michael Prassis, our head of corporate development, will be in charge of achieving some MOUs and offtakes over the coming months. We also have a strong commitment to our ESG principles. We've signed up to the WEF, the World Economic Forum, and this has led us to look at our the way we engage in our communities. We've got negotiation protocols with our Indigenous communities. We employ them where we can. We commit to giving a portion of our expenditure to the communities, and this also led us to look at our low carbon footprint, and has made us really look at that that hydropower angle as well. So the study work as we go forward, we've commenced our pre-feasibility study. It's on the back of our scoping study, which we've put out as well. Our scoping study, which seem to have missed a slide in this presentation, showed some compelling economics. Had a $430 million capex for a $650 million NPV, an IRR of about 30%, and that was producing both phosphate and a mixed rare earth carbonate at the Port of Wyndham. So we've used really good consultants and industry-leading groups here to move our project forward, and we'll continue to use them into our pre-feasibility study. So why RareX? Look, the timing's right. You need to have some exposure to rare earths. We've all made a lot of money out of lithium over the last couple of years, but rare earths is the next one. Metal prices are high. Finally we've got support from our government industries, both from NAIF and some of the critical mineral facilitation offices. We will access the Critical Minerals Acceleration Initiative to fund our feasibility work and piloting work. Relatively cheap value proposition with an EV of about $30 to $40 million, and well funded to do what we need to do in the short term. Our exploration target, we will meet that in the coming months, if not the next 6 months. And we've got the team to deliver, not only myself, but a very good team of experts all around us. And that's the story. I encourage you to come past the booth. There are a few slides that didn't show up in my presentation that should have been there, but come by the booth and I'll explain the full story to you. And yeah, let's get involved in rare earths. I think it very much is the next lithium, and we've got an exciting proposition on our hands here. So thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. It was interesting. 1 kilo of those two needed in a car. 1 kilo.
That's right. Yeah, 1 kilo in every car, probably 2 kilos in some of your high end.
Oh. If we could get hold of them in WA, that would be great at this point in time. There's this fellow down here with the red jacket on. I asked everyone, who actually in the room does own an electric vehicle? Who's got one? One over there? Who's got 2? Fellow down the front, but he's a very canny investor. Actually, have a chat with him later on today too. He's made some good investments. He's a good fun to talk to as well. It is actually a lot of fun talking to all of you and getting your different perspectives on things. I'm going to ask you your perspective on the AFL game. Yeah,
look, I wouldn't mind Sydney winning, but I think almost certain Geelong's got it. So they're a much better team. So.
Who's your normal team? Who do you know?
Eagles, unfortunately, this year.
So you're giving them a laugh. That's very kind of you. Well done. They'll come and chat with you about that, and then they'll talk to you about your winning project. You've got to focus on the successes, don't you?
That's right. Take what you can.
Okay. Thanks so much, Jeremy. Cheers, mate. That's a very interesting little project, that one, isn't it? Now, our next presentation, and this is our last one before the lunch break, isn't it? Let's double check. Okay, so this is going to have to make it tantalising for us, Tony. This one is focusing on a new nickel province, which is back over in Western Australia. So we're in the Pilbara region this time. And around this time last year, WA explorer Azure Minerals hit pay dirt from its very first drill hole at the Andover project in WA's West Pilbara. This year, they've been rapidly progressing towards from exploration through to mine development. And this is Tony Rovira. He is the managing director. He's also a geologist with more than 40 years of experience. Again, another fellow that really knows his stuff. He's got a lot of experience in this and had some big successes over the years. And his objective here is to develop one of Australia's newest nickel, copper and cobalt deposits into an operational mine. Would you please make him very welcome, everyone?
Thank you, Chrissy, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for allowing me the opportunity to bring you the Azure Minerals story. As the title of the slide here shows, is that our Andover project is looking like it's going to be developed into Australia's newest nickel province. It is an opportunity here to be able to build a multi-mine, multi-nickel mine district in the West Pilbara region of Western Australia. The usual disclaimer and statements, they can be found on our website and you can study them at your leisure. I do acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land which we operate on. They're the Narryer people of the West Pilbara region of Western Australia. It's absolutely critical that to operate in these environments and that you have the full cooperation and support of the local communities. We spend a lot of time working with the Narryer to ensure that we are operating in a way which is in their best interests as well as in our best interests as well. It's particularly important is because not far to the south of us there is there were some caves that were blown up last year, and these are the same people, and we need to make sure that we don't repeat anything as unfortunate as that incident. So we work very closely with the Narryer. Corporately, the company's got about 310 million shares on issue, trading at about 21, 22 cents at the moment. So a market cap of about $65 million. We had about $14 million in the bank back at in July. So we're sitting there at about $10 million in the bank right now. So the company's in a fairly good position financially. And we see ourselves as being well funded. No debt there. Two major shareholders. We have the Deutsche Balaton Group, which is a listed German investment fund, who are actively investing in a lot of different West Australian or Australian exploration and mining companies. And they've been a very strong supporter of ours for many years now. And Mark Creasy and the Creasy Group, well, Mark Creasy is very well known, particularly in Western Australia, and I would assume over on this side of the country as well, as one of the Australia's foremost and most successful explorers and discoverers of precious and base metal deposits. And you don't get to be a multi-billionaire by being unsuccessful. So this guy is really good. He's been a very strong supporter of our company. So the project that we've got and we'll talk about today is the Andover Nickel, Copper and Cobalt project. It's a joint venture between ourselves and Mark Creasy and his group. So Azure owns 60% of the project and the Creasy group owns the other 40%. We bought our 60% from him with shares in the company, which is why he now holds 16% ownership of Azure Minerals. The acquisition was made back in 2020, and in the last 2 years, we've been drilling non-stop. Diamond drilling for the entire 2 years. We've made 4 good solid nickel discoveries to date, and we've identified numerous other prospects where there's the opportunity for defining further resources as well. The beauty of this particular area is that most of the rocks stick out of the ground. Probably 80% of our project area, about 70 square kilometres, the rocks actually stick out of the ground. Therefore, the traditional method of exploration, which is boots on the ground, and just good old-fashioned mapping and sampling at surface, followed by geophysical surveying, electromagnetic surveying, has identified dozens of different targets, and those are the ones that we're testing with the diamond drilling at the moment. It's quite remarkable that the location of this project, which is only 5 kilometres outside of the town of Roebourne, in an area where there's highways crossing the project area, roads, we've got water pipelines, we've got gas pipelines, we've got electrical high voltage cable systems, etc. All of that infrastructure which is great for an exploration and mining project to bring into development. Even with all of that infrastructure, we still have nickel and copper mineralisation sticking out of the ground, which has never been discovered or identified previously. We've got examples of bright green rocks, which are rich in copper, where not a person has ever come along and cracked them with a hammer before. So it's simply remarkable that in this day and age, you can still make discoveries like that in an area that's so heavy in infrastructure. So having identified numerous prospects ahead of us, we've got that pipeline of targets which we've yet to drill, and we're very confident that there'll be a lot more discoveries still to come from that. So with this concept of defining a new nickel province, now obviously we have nickel provinces elsewhere in Western Australia around Kambalda and the like, for example, but this is a brand new one. And as I said, we've made 4 good discoveries to date. We've drilled over 180 diamond drill holes into the project area for about 80,000 metres of diamond drilling. The initial mineral resource on the Andover deposit itself was published back in March of this year. We currently have just completed drilling out a second deposit, which is called Ridgeline, and the resource on that one is expected to be delivered to the market in January of next year. So obviously exploration and drilling and resource definition is going along really well, but simultaneously with that, we've implemented this dual pathway strategy where we have development studies underway as well. So the components of development studies are all going towards making us in the position of being able to produce and publish a scoping study in the first quarter of next year. And then given that, let's assume that that has a positive outcome, that we'll move straight into the definitive feasibility study straight after that. And the intention is that what we see at the moment is that we would have a central processing facility that would produce nickel and copper concentrates, which we would sell into the greater marketplace. And that concentrating facility would be fed from multiple mines in the local district. So that is a typical hub and spoke type of operation. And the company is very well positioned to be able to take that forward from here. So the actual Andover deposit, this is the first deposit that we discovered on the ground. A bit over 4.5 million tonnes of about 1.4% nickel equivalent. It contains around about 75,000 tonnes of combined nickel, copper and cobalt mineralisation. It's a very robust resource. We've drilled it out intensely. Over 100 drill holes were put into it. The red zone in the middle, that's the indicated resource category. So that's of a higher confidence level. And within that, there's about 80% of the total resources in the indicated category. And the consistency of the mineralisation across that is first class. So in terms of the width of the mineralisation and the grades of the mineralisation, very consistent all through that. Mineralisation starts at about 20 metres below surface. It continues to over 550 metres below surface, where it is still open for further exploration success. It's just the drilling was getting pretty expensive to go down that deep, so we stopped at that point. And the mineralisation throughout that area, as I said, is incredibly consistent. And the shape of this deposit and the style of the mineralisation lends itself to an underground mining operation, which is what we're planning on doing. So on this slide here, on the right-hand side, you can see where the Andover deposit is. It's that red mustache-looking thing. In fact, there's a smaller body as well, but the larger one is the one that's got most of the resources in it. You can see the tonnes of the resources there on the right-hand side. Immediately to the left, we have the Ridgeline deposit. It starts only 200 metres away from Andover. We've put about 40 diamond drill holes into the Ridgeline deposit. The drilling is now complete for now. Though samples are at the lab, we're waiting on getting those results back from the laboratory, and then we'll be moving into the resource calculation mode. And as I said earlier, I expect that we would have a resource published for Ridgeline in January of next year. But what it looks like, this is a great example of a different style of exploration success. Whereas Andover sticks out of the ground and so many of the others stick out of the ground, Ridgeline is buried. It's blind at surface. You wouldn't know it was there. And we discovered it through our geophysical surveying. We've identified 2 very high-grade shoots of solid nickel sulfide mineralisation, and this is an example of what it looks like. This is just one of the holes, hole 134, which hit about 6.5 metres of 3.6% nickel. And you can see as we went from the top to the bottom, We went into a couple of runs running 2.2% nickel, and then after that, all those half-metre samples are running 3 to 4 to nearly 5% nickel. So very consistent, very high grade. And on the left-hand side, there's a short table there which shows some of the other drill holes that have had similar success, where we're getting around this 4 to 6 to 8 metres wide, running 3 to 4% nickel. So, and also in terms of the metallurgy, both Andover deposit and Ridgeline deposit, very positive results, high-grade nickel and copper concentrates, no deleterious elements. So this is a geological plan of the area. It's the blue outline is the outline of the mining concession that we have. 4 discoveries, Andover, Ridgeline, Seaview, Skyline. All of those are in the lower left-hand corner where you can see that more of a green type rock. Those 4 deposits and prospects in that area are spread over about a 4-kilometre long zone or horizon of a different rock type, which is very visible at surface, contains all the mineralisation that we've discovered in that part of the district to date. Lots more of the targets in there that have yet to be drilled. So at the bottom of on the left, you see some of the others, Atrium, Woodbrook, Pipeline, etc. A lot more targets yet to drill, and drilling is continuing. And then we're spreading up further towards the north and the northeast into areas where we haven't done as much work yet, but when we've gone up on the ground, we have actually discovered good mineralisation at surface as well. So a lot of targets yet to test on this project area. So we've been able to build a team, started 2 years ago when we picked up the project. We have probably one of the best nickel exploration teams in Australia. This is a team that not only is good at the geology, but they're actually very successful. They've got a really good, successful track record, myself included, in terms of making discoveries of nickel deposits which have been turned into operating nickel mines. So the company's in a very strong position technically and from our manpower point of view as well. So just as we sort of lead into the summary of the talk, it is a dual pathway system here. We're trying to fast track this nickel project through to production absolutely as quickly as we can. So running in parallel, we have the exploration and the resource definition drilling. That's ongoing. We've got an exploration team that is out there discovering things as we speak. On the other hand, we've got the project development team running things. James Dornan, who's our project development manager, is here with me today, and he's out at our booth. So feel free to talk to him about how the development studies are coming along. So the metallurgy is now complete. Some of the results have been put out last year, and more recently, we've just completed the Ridgeline work, and that's going to be going out in the next couple of weeks. But everything looks very positive from the metallurgical point of view. We've completed the geotechnical studies, mining studies are nearly done, mineral processing is done as well. So virtually all of those components have been completed to date. Importantly, it's the ones at the bottom that are the ones that can either hold up or help your project advance. So the local community interaction, the heritage with the local Aboriginal peoples as well, and the environmental surveys. And all of those things are being done as we speak. And so far, all of the components for the development study program is looking really positive. So it's vitally important that you be able to develop mines in the modern day with under the highest levels of our ESG principles. And that's what we're intending to doing. We've implemented all of the practices and procedures that are needed to be able to bring a mine into production and to operate a mine at the highest possible best practices that you possibly can. One of the best things that we're doing here is bringing locals into it as best we can. So we're hiring locally, we're buying locally, we're involved with the local community at all levels. So it's important that we continue to do that. And so far things have been looking really positive. Once we get to the stage of, let's assume we get into production and we're producing nickel and copper concentrates, at some point in time in the future, those components will be put into a battery in a factory in Europe or wherever. It's important that we have traceability for the materials that are in that battery all the way back down through the process and back to where we're mining. And that's where our intention is, that we'll have a very high level of traceability of the products that we produce, to ensure that the future purchasers can be assured that we've done this in the most proper ESG compatible way. So going forward, we've got the strategy. It's the dual pathways working really well. We're having great discoveries. We're advancing the development studies. company's in a very strong financial position at the moment. We are exposed to those high value battery metals of your nickel, your copper and your cobalt, which is the high value end of the spectrum. And the company's in a really good position. And this is just a quick photograph of part of the town of Roebourne. We're located just in the hills that are just behind there. So we're only 5 kilometres from the local town. So infrastructure for us is really good, and we're very much a part of the local community. Thank you.
Good on you, Tony. Who are you backing?
As an Eagles supporter, I really.
Oh, say it again.
I expect Geelong to win.
You stay in here and you can go last for lunch. We're going to lunch. There's a fantastic selection out there. If you think, my God, this line is huge, I'm not going to get anything, please don't panic, because Chef has got loads of stuff out the back for us. So take your time, have a chat, do what you want to do. I promise you, I will personally go and find you more food if you feel that there is not enough there. There's loads out there, and there's a nice little GF pavlova for dessert, which I think you're going to want to sink your teeth into as well. Enjoy, everyone. We'll see you back in half an hour.